back to the Liberation Hour. Yes, folks, we are back here. I have been gone for quite a while now, I would say. Well, it's so good to be back here on the Liberation Hour. This is October 29th, 2025, and we are on the 15th episode of the Liberation Hour. Folks, it feels good to be here again. We have a few different news stories that I want to cover today, but I also just want to say if you have been tuning in for my pre-recorded episodes or watching those on YouTube, thank you so much. Your support is so welcome and so needed, and I so appreciate it. And before we get started, it is time for the top of the hour disclaimer. Okay, folks. WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign online community. Views expressed are those of the speakers and do not represent WRFU UCIMC. Okay, here we are. We're back. And there's a lot happening in the world today. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at a lot of these, a few different news stories, a few different big things that have been happening recently. That I have to say, it's been a lot. If you didn't know, last week I was out of the country. I was on a very nice vacation to Barcelona, or Barcelona if you're normal. No shade to the Spanish, a little bit of shade. But I was on vacation. It was a lovely vacation. And I have been keeping track of the news here in the United States. Thankfully, they let me back in. Probably because of the government shutdown. There are less personnel at the airports, most of which, I would say all of which, are not being paid. Which is not good at all. That's terrible. We're going to actually be covering the government shutdown tonight. We're also going to be covering Israel breaking the ceasefire. No surprise there, although at the expense of many Palestinian lives lost once again. This is nothing new. We saw this. We've seen this before, and we will be seeing it again. Unfortunately, because this is how the colonial ethno-state of Israel works. It's quite unfortunate and sad, but we will be covering it today. We'll be talking about resistance. We'll be talking about why this is happening and what we can do to support our Palestinian comrades as they deal with these ongoing issues of genocide. And then we are also today going to be covering Hurricane Melissa. I know these are all three very mainstream stories that are being covered by a lot of news outlets today. I try to cover things that are a little more, maybe not as niche, but stuff that's not being super, reported on by mainstream news. However, I think that these three stories are really important to be talking about from a Marxist perspective, mainly because I do not trust sources like CNN and MSNBC, or especially Fox News, frankly, to be able to cover these with the amount of not only empathy required, but also fact analysis and class analysis, which gives a full breadth of understanding of how folks are actually being affected on the ground by these issues. So first, I want to go ahead and cover what's going on in Israel and Palestine and the occupied Gaza Strip. There's a lot happening right now. As many of you may know, a ceasefire agreement was reached. However, I personally, it was broken from what I have been seeing, it has been broken from day one. Israel has never had any intention of actually respecting the ceasefire agreement. We can see this. They did the same thing with the last one, and not only that, they have been just outright murdering journalists. There was a journalist, I believe I may have mentioned him in the last episode that I went live, who was murdered by the Israeli state and the actual terrorist cells, not Hamas, but the actual terrorist cells and gangs which exist within the Gaza Strip, who work with Israel. He was victimized and brutally murdered by them. Forgive me, I forget his name, but him and his journalism played a huge key role in those of us not in the Gaza Strip being able to actually see what has been going on and understand and reckon with the brutal genocide that the Palestinian people have been going through for over 2 years now. In this most recent breaking of the ceasefire, which was, I believe, last Wednesday night, or I guess Tuesday night for us, I'm not good at time, but 104 Palestinians were killed in an airstrike. I'm reading this. This is from Al Jazeera. Among them was 46 children. And Israel has banned the Red Cross from visiting Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. Defense Minister Israel Katz, bro's name is Israel, announced spurring condemnation from the Palestinian Prisoner Society Advocacy Group. This is also from Al Jazeera. This is no surprise. Israel has been using these tactics for decades now of keeping aid, medical aid, food, necessary things to live from Palestinians because they are a genocidal settler colonial state. There is no other explanation for this. This is the reality. Israel has been breaking the ceasefire over and over and over again because, quite frankly, a ceasefire isn't enough. The state of Israel must be completely wiped off the earth. And I'm not talking about killing the people of Israel. That would be wrong. I'm talking about the state of Israel needs to be disbanded, and there needs to be military action, intervention taken against the state of Israel, because frankly, a ceasefire at this point was never actually on the minds of the Israeli state, and frankly, of many of the Israeli citizens as well, who openly and wholeheartedly support this genocide. This isn't to say that violence or harm should happen against Israeli citizens, because many of them, there are plenty of people who have had nothing to do with this. However, they are still settler colonists, and especially there needs to be intervention against the IOF, the Israeli occupying force, and the genocidal government, and really the whole structure, the whole thing is rotten to the core. It stinks of colonial imperial power, and it is simply a pariah state for the United States to have a presence in the Middle East, and eventually wipe all Palestinians off the map in order to have complete access to the Gaza Strip and the prime real estate that exists there. Don't be fooled. A ceasefire is not enough at this point. There needs to be. It was a good starting point, but Israel has made it very clear that this is not something that they were ever going to respect. And we have come to a point in which we must ask ourselves, we can no longer use the explanation and frankly the excuse of, oh, well, Hamas, they're terrorists. No, they are resistance fighters. They are fighting against an occupying genocidal force that is trying to murder every man, woman, and child, every Palestinian man, woman, and child that exists in Palestine, in order to completely take over the region for not only racist settler colonial reasons, but also for imperial powers to have access to the land, to the resources, and eventually expand further in order to have further control and access to the Arab states that exist within the Middle East, and the bevy of natural resources which they hold. Make no mistake, this is imperialism, folks. This is imperialism at its core. This is simply reality, and we cannot look away, and we cannot act as though a ceasefire is enough at this point, because the Israeli military and the Israeli government and the Israeli people have made it very clear, or at least many of the Israeli people, not all Israeli people do think this, but the culture within Israel has escalated to a point in which many Israelis do believe that this is okay. We wouldn't be giving a pass to the German people who allowed the Nazis to take over and do the Holocaust against Jewish people. We would not give them a pass and saying, well, I didn't know, or I wasn't the one doing the genocide, or I didn't vote for the Nazis. It doesn't matter. There were still German people at that time who were actively resisting against the fascist forces, whether it was at the cost of their lives or simply at the cost of their comfort. We must understand that especially we as Americans, our tax dollars are going towards the bombs that are being dropped on the heads of children, of just random people who have had nothing to do with any harm that has come to Israeli people. And even then, The Hamas resistance fighters are fighting not to do terrorism. They are fighting for the very existence of the Palestinian people. That is not something that I am going to be against, because I am an anti-fascist and I am against genocide. And being against genocide also means being for resistance against genocide. We cannot allow ourselves to waver in this moment and say, oh, well, a ceasefire has been enacted. Where do we? This is it. No, this isn't it. This isn't it. Israel has made it abundantly clear how they feel about the Palestinian people's existence. We cannot look away from this, and we cannot act as though colonized people are no longer colonized simply because a ceasefire has been enacted in the act of genocide against them. This isn't enough. This is only the very beginning. Military intervention must happen now in order to save the Palestinian lives. There must be a collective effort from nations across the world to stop this genocide, to stop the apartheid. And that's it. That's point blank. That's the vibe. That's the position. And that is solidarity. Having solidarity with the Palestinian people doesn't just mean, oh, well, we need to have a ceasefire. It's a ceasefire and all of the things that come after that to ensure Palestinian emancipation from the apartheid and from the genocide actually comes to fruition. We cannot waver in this moment, not a bit. And so moving on next to Hurricane Melissa. Dozens of people have died in Haiti after Melissa's rains swelled riverbanks, according to reports. At least 25 people have been killed, according to the latest updates. That's from The Guardian. Jamaican officials said buildings on the island have suffered structural damage. Roads were still impassable, and power outages continue to be widespread. This is also from The Guardian. And Melissa slammed into Jamaica as a record-breaking and destructive Category 5 storm with sustained winds of 185 miles per hour before being downgraded to a Category 3 when it hit Cuba with winds of 120 miles per hour, according to the U.S. National Hurricane Center. This is also from The Guardian. According to eastern Cuba, authorities evacuated around 735,000 people as the storm approached. Most remained in emergency centers. The Cuban president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, I'm sorry, President Miguel, if I'm saying that incorrectly, said the country has suffered extensive damage and warned residents against letting down their guard as rains continue to lash the region. Okay, folks, so as many of you have probably seen, the destruction of Hurricane Melissa is massive, and it is on countries and island nations which are at the most risk. Cuba, especially because of the draconian embargoes that the United States has on the Cuban government and the Cuban people, simply for the crime of being communist. Dun dun dun! How dare they? And it's interesting actually, because many will make the case that, oh, well, these are underdeveloped nations. We essentially taking a very white savior stance to this. However, many of these island nations are, if we look at the core of these issues, Hurricane Melissa and the destruction that has occurred is largely due to the global North's willingness to destroy our planet with climate change. And storms like this are becoming much more brutal and deadly as a result. And those who are the most exploited and are dealing with the most imperial exploitation are going to suffer the most from these consequences of climate change. This is no surprise. This is often how it works, and we must not look away from that fact as we navigate a future in which colonized people and exploited laborers across the world seek justice against the imperial core and imperial powers, which have caused such terrible outcomes like climate change. Hurricane Melissa is a phenomenon at the core root essence of climate change and imperial exploitation and pillaging of resources and use and gobbling up natural gas and oil and other such resources, which are pumping carbon into the atmosphere and creating environments in which things like hurricane disasters like Hurricane Melissa become even more deadly. We cannot miss this in the larger analysis and solidarity with the Jamaican people, the Cuban people, and the Haitian people. It is incredibly sad, and I mourn deeply for those who have been lost as a result of this hurricane. And I implore people listening now or those in the future who are listening on YouTube to please donate to legitimate funds which are going to directly help the Jamaican, Cuban, and Haitian people who have been deeply affected by this, and to further educate yourselves on how these things come to pass, why we have gotten to this point, how we have gotten to this point. And I also implore people to look at the larger economic factors that create situations in which people, especially in the Caribbean islands, are especially put at risk. It doesn't have to be this way. People don't have to, we can do better. There are measures that can be taken in order to protect people from disasters like this. America itself has made it clear that it doesn't even care if its own people are affected by hurricanes hurricanes such as Hurricane Melissa. We can see this with Hurricane Katrina back in 2005, Hurricane Maria, which devastated Puerto Rico, and Hurricane Harvey. Someone close to me, my best friend, her and her husband had just bought a home in Georgia when her home was flooded, and the amount of work and money that it took in order to just simply get it back to baseline was immense. And not the realization that the house wasn't fully sealed, all of these problems, which average people are dealing with. I can only imagine what it's like for someone in the global south, in Caribbean island nations, who are actively dealing with not only the imperial powers which aim to exploit their labor, but also then must deal with the fallout of gigantic disasters such as this one, which can be directly attributed to the greed of global north nations such as the United States, the UK, China, Russia, all of these nations which gobble up fossil fuels, and yeah, I'm going to call out China in this one. I don't care how much work they've done. They are still doing imperial work, social imperialism, which is negatively affecting people, especially those in Indonesia. I've talked about this before, but the United States is certainly the front runner here when it comes to the use of fossil fuels. We can also directly implicate Saudi Arabia in this. This is a global thing, and it is always those who are at the most risk, who are the most exploited under capitalism, who deal with the brunt of these problems. Millionaires and billionaires will never, ever have to deal with the true fallout of what it means to be living through a hurricane. And this is just reality. And so we must do radical solidarity with those suffering from Hurricane Melissa and those who will suffer further from other natural disasters such as this. Make no mistake, this is part of a larger system and a larger problem and situation in which folks are put directly in harm's way when it doesn't ever have to be this way. We can change this for the better, but until we actually confront global capitalism, imperialism, climate change, and do radical solidarity and implore and institute scientific socialism in order to stop such problems and actively create systems, community systems and networks of community care in which people are put first, things will not change. We can't, when I say donate, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We cannot simply do reactionary policy when things like this happen. It needs to be from the ground up. It needs to start at a place of prevention, and this can only be implemented under a system of socialism. And so this moves, this kind of, I guess, perfectly segues me into the last story of the night before I go into, and I play for you guys the first 30 minutes of my segment with Comrade Sofia on ranking different slogans, leftist slogans. We have the government shutdown. The U.S. government shutdown hit its 29th day with no indication of Democrats and Republicans were close to an agreement to restart the funding. Chuck Schumer, the Senate's top Democrat, called Trump heartless after his administration determined it could not continue a crucial food aid program because of the shutdown. 42 million Americans rely on SNAP benefits to live. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, I find it rich coming from Chuck Schumer when he has been denying the genocide of the Palestinian people for how many years now? I mean, come on, man. You're not fooling anyone. This is getting ridiculous. This government shutdown, well, I think that it is important to note that part of the reason it's even happening is because Republicans are trying to cut cut as many programs as possible from the American people, such as healthcare benefits. And I mean, this is completely unjustified and wrong. 42 million Americans rely on SNAP. Isn't that crazy? I mean, in a country that's supposed to be the richest country on earth, 42 million Americans rely on SNAP benefits to eat, to simply eat. And there are no breadlines in America. No, there are no breadlines in America. People like to, do criticism against the Soviet Union and saying, well, there were breadlines. At least they had them. At least they were trying to feed their people. At least they were providing. I mean, here in America, when the government shuts down and your benefits get cut, tough. Sorry, sucks to suck. That is basically what you're told from both sides of the aisle. The Democrats are just better at hiding it. And even then, it's not really true because the Democrats truly don't care. If the Democrats cared even an ounce, they would have been fighting the Trump administration from the beginning, tooth and nail. They only choose now to do it. I don't buy any of their bull, especially from Chuck Schumer of all people, about how this is heartless. Chuck Schumer, you're heartless. You are heartless for denying the genocide of the Palestinians. You are heartless for taking up space in the Senate with someone who could actually fight for better for the American people could be there. And I don't even believe in electoralism. I'm not out here thinking that the Senate's going to do anything for us, but at least we could have someone there who's not a million years old. Like, come on. And that was a little ageist of me. Sorry, but like, Chuck Schumer is not going to be around much longer when it comes to seeing the consequences of his actions in the federal government. I think it's pretty rich coming from Democrats, considering that they have done jack to actually fight the fascists. This is unsurprising, of course, considering that they are the accomplices in this situation, and they are the accomplices to the fascists. They have always been, and they always will be. And it is because if you scratch a liberal, a fascist bleeds. Don't get it twisted. Don't think that the Democrats are suddenly on your side because they are fighting for a quote-unquote better budget. If they were, then they would have cut as much military funding as possible. But they aren't, because they still believe in doing United States imperialism. They still believe in bombing children in Palestine. They still believe in funding right-wing dictatorships. This is no surprise, and it is because the Democrats at no point have ever actually cared about working people. This is, and those who may have at one point, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to dog on Zoran Mamdani here for a minute. As much as I like his platform and I see the benefits of it, do not put your hopes and dreams into a single person to make change the system, because the system itself will never actually change for us. We can do small reforms and small things within it to make things easier on ourselves, to help push working class solidarity. But this cannot be our only in. This cannot be our only push towards radical scientific socialism and pushing a socialist revolution. Frankly, we must be honest with ourselves in how these representatives and how these people are portraying themselves versus who they actually are and what they are actually doing. Zoran Mamdani and those like him are definitely doing their best, I would say, and I don't really disagree with much of what he's saying. I no, actually, that's no. Strike that from the record. I disagree with a lot of what he says. However, we can take what they offer the movement and say this is overall beneficial, while also recognizing a lot of the harm that they do by pushing for only reform and never for a class struggle. As it relates to the government shutdown, we must recognize that this is business as usual for these people, and it makes me incredibly sad to think that starting November 1st, millions of Americans will go without food benefits and without food. How did we get here exactly? Well, I'll tell you how we got here. This is the essence of capitalism. It doesn't care if you don't have food on the table. It doesn't care if kids go hungry. It doesn't care if kids starve. It doesn't care if people starve, because the aim was never to meet the basic needs of human beings. That's the point of that's the point. Capitalism has never hidden this from us. Capitalism has never said, oh, well, all I want to do is make life better for all people and all working people. No, capitalism has always been honest about its profit-driven motives. It has always been about making a profit. Profit over people, always. That is what capitalism is. Don't get it twisted. This government shutdown is unfortunately part of the process when it comes to these things, and we must practice radical solidarity, radical mutual aid to support each other through this. If you can, dig into your own pockets and help pay for a couple cans of soup for your neighbor who may be struggling. If you can, go to your local mutual aid distribution sites and support, help hand out food, help provide resources. If you have a specific skill, if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, if you speak a second language, reach out to your local rapid response groups such as ICE Rapid Response and mutual aid groups. See how you can help. This is how we fight back. This has always been how we fight back, and we cannot let ourselves get wrapped up in what freaking Chuck Schumer says, and instead look at how we can do direct action to support each other through this crisis, and in doing this, also help do political education, showing people that there is another way. We don't have to live this way. We don't. No one ever said that, well, this is the end all be all, other than Francis Fukuyama. I mean, he did say that. But we don't have to live this way. We can do better. The working class can do better for ourselves and for each other, more importantly. I highly suggest looking into what the American Party of Labor has been doing with Red Aid over in New York, looking at what Mutual Aid Monday has been doing in Denver. There's also some mutual aid groups that I know of over in Chicago. Look at what they're doing, replicate their methods, reach out, contact them, go on large calls, see how you can support people in your local neighborhoods, in your city, in your county. Agitate. Be part of the change. Be part of the rapid and radical direct action and mutual aid that is required in situations like this and in general. because this is what it means to live under capitalism. And until we are able to dismantle the system, to do the class struggle, and to begin building socialism and eventually reach communism, this is what we are required to do as working people to sustain each other and to sustain the movement. All right, folks, it is 7:30, and so I'm going to be playing for you the first 30 minutes of my segment with Comrade Sofia on leftist slogans. I'm super excited about this. It's going to be super fun. We did a whole ranking thing. The episode's actually a lot longer, so if you want to listen to the whole episode and all of the slogans that we ranked, go on my YouTube channel at Comrade Felicity or Communist Bananas, and you can also find me on Instagram at the same handle. I hope you guys enjoy this, and this is me and Comrade Sofia talking about leftist sloganeering.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, hello. Thank you so much, Comrade Sofia.
I'm back
You're back. You're back.
with video.
Yes, with video for another episode. Thank you so much. Everyone, this is Comrade Sofia from the second episode on Lenin.
Yeah, dude, I called in. The audio was terrible.
Yeah,
I
it was
can't say
really
the other word I
bad.
was thinking of.
That's okay though. We're back. It is October 28th. We were pre-recording this one day early. This was a little bit on the fly, but I'm super excited for this episode because we have 21 different slogans that we've picked out
Yes.
to rank from S to D, S tier through A, B, C, D. Yes, that's what it is.
Comrade
Um,
Felicity, what is a
what
slogan?
is it? It's basically, that's a great question. A slogan in this case is a phrase or a group of, or a saying that a movement has, especially during chants, in order to rally support around the cause. I would say through a series, like through like a phrase that like is easy to remember. It can rhyme. That's usually how I think about it. What do you think? Does that cover bases, or do you have extra you want to add?
That covers some of it. I believe it was Stalin who said, "Oh God, that's going to be a
Mm,
terrible." I believe it was Stalin who said, "No." Uh, Slogans have been a really important part of the communist movement for as long as there has been a communist movement.
mm-hmm,
Um, Going back to Workers of the World Unite, they have been ways to convey complex ideas to the masses generally. There are a couple types of slogans. There are agitational slogans, which are meant to sort of make vivid the reality that people are currently experiencing. Um, there are, oh fuck, I forget what they're called. Um, but there are like action slogans that are like,
mm.
this is an instruction. We are
Yeah,
going to do this right now.
yeah.
All power to the Soviets changed. Initially, it was an agitational slogan, I believe, but then became an action slogan at some point in Soviet history.
Hmm.
Um, Slogans are super important. They help us convey our ideas as communists.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes they prevent us from conveying our ideas.
Hmm.
Um,
That's just true.
and so it's important to get them right. And so I had the kind of silly idea to rank some slogans on effectiveness and communication.
No, I think it's a great idea, and I'm super excited to do it because when you brought it up initially, I was like, that's kind of perfect, honestly, because I like I know that especially with the No Kings protest that we just had,
Mhm.
there's definitely a lot of movements that are going on right now during the Trump administration that like I would say to the untrained eye can be seen as more radical than they are,
Sure.
and most certainly don't really convey the full problem.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
it's why it's important, as you've said, to analyze these slogans and actually look at what are they saying. With at the time that they came around, and now,
Hmm.
because there's a lot of them that are used by the movement at large, or people who say that they are leftist, that don't make a whole lot of sense, or that out of context it's hard to understand, and also they can be dog whistles, I would say.
They can sometimes be dog whistles. I think thankfully we don't have any dog whistles on this list, but
No.
yeah, that's a very important thing to recognize is that uh slogans carry a lot of weight. They're essentially slogans are memes which are politically important.
Political memes.
They they're political memes, and they're memes that carry um significance and weight and gravity.
Hmm.
Um I think when you bring up dog whistles, I immediately think of like a whistle, dog whistles in a context that could on the surface be maybe something progressive is
Hmm.
it's sometimes online you'll find people posting under various like revelations of Israeli Zionist war crimes, hashtag noticing noticers. That is a Nazi dog whistle, you guys. That means that we are noticers of like um the Jews control everything, yada yada yada, etc. etc. So
That's insane.
yes. If you see someone repeat something a lot, there's a like if you see something repeated a lot all over places, there's a probable chance that this is not an original thought.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's a repeated thought. It is something that uh, people inherit from various movements, from various spaces,
Right.
and they might not understand the full implications of it, or they might understand something different from it. Um, and so we want to like analyze some slogans and get down to the nitty gritty of like, what does this mean? Is this a good slogan? And what are some better slogans? Or like, is this a perfect slogan actually? And are we good? Do we want to use
Yeah.
this all the time, forever?
Well, it also makes me think about because I'm in Marxism 101 right now, which is, if
Ooh.
folks aren't aware,
Contact, yeah,
yes, for context, Marxism 101 is the course that you take as a candidate with the APL, where you basically read a lot of different Marxist works, whether it be from
and get your
comrades.
education.
Yes, you get your education. And your one thing that we've been talking about most recently is revisionism. And
Sure.
I would say that you can also kind of tell what a leftist movement's praxis
Yeah.
and
Sorry,
theory
sorry. One
is.
sec.
Yeah,
What
you
their
know,
sources are, who
yes,
they're reading,
you can tell when someone's
who
a
they're drawing
trot.
inspiration from.
Yes,
You can
you.
tell when someone's a trop and you can also tell when someone's a Marxist-Leninist,
Mhm.
whether you mean in the Dengist sense or in the actual sense.
Yeah.
No shade to Dengists.
Uh,
Well, yeah, actually, we will be shade. We won't be shading them. We will be discussing them politely,
yes, discussing politely, but still, they're
but disagree.
revisionists, but disagree. And also looking at, like, because as leftists, it's not necessarily easy to infiltrate the movement. But I would say right now I feel like there's a lot of blurred lines between what is a leftist and what isn't a leftist, because there's a lot of
Sure.
what I would say unprincipled behavior going on within this
Well, I
larger
mean, I think
movement.
I think let's take a little look at that. I think it's a problem of the Marxist movement does not have infrastructure. We
It
do not have
doesn't.
education. We are
Very fragmented.
divorced. We're divorced, well, fragmented, but also we are divorced from the historical legacy of
It's true.
Marxism-Leninism. And a lot of the times we are forced to read texts that are the most accessible to us, that are the shortest, that are the most succinct. And sometimes those aren't always the most comprehensive. And sometimes if we are reading deeper texts, we're not equipped with the tools and like the knowledge and the background, and just the like learning skills to actually understand being said.
Yeah.
And I think uh, I, you know, I think we can talk about the class nature of revisionism, right? How it serves
Mm-hmm.
certain classes, but
Mm-hmm.
at a human level, and recognizing that we on the left do care about the same things
Mm-hmm.
broadly. I think we have to all kind of be humble and realize that none of us know shit. Like genuinely, like movement elders, they have some knowledge, and that is like the practical knowledge that they've gained from being on the line. But even
It's true.
they, those the CPU, the old CPUSA,
Mm-hmm.
and many organizations of the 60s and 70s, they were also divorced from the historical Marxist-Leninist movement.
That's
And
true.
they learned a lot, but they've not even been able to pass what they have learned onto us successfully.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we have to be really, when it comes to revisionism,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we should, if we have the know-how and if we have the vocabulary and if we have the ability to describe it, we need to be able to combat it, but we can't reduce anti-revisionism to a slogan, because what anti-revisionism is understanding the essence of Marxism. It is understanding and applying the revolutionary essence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we can maybe capture certain ideas, certain facts in slogans, but um, and that is an important part of what we'll have to do. But we cannot reduce the strength and the importance and the breadth and the depth of this movement and of this like science to, castigating
Yeah.
people that have like an interpretation that might not be correct.
Yeah,
But
no, I
we
think
can do that for we can do that for tendencies, but not for people. All
yeah.
right?
No, I think that that's really true, and I think that like especially I get a little bit like I do get irritated at times with
Sure.
folks, but at the same time, like I don't have any fucking room to speak. I find it really hard to read. And like this is coming from someone who's a Marxist. It's what we do. That's literally like half
Yeah.
of our job is to just read. And
Especially right
so,
now. Yeah.
especially right now. And so like when I say unprincipled behavior, I more mean unprincipled tendencies that like
Yes. Let's
I
discuss the ideas. Let's discuss the
yeah, the
tendencies.
the
Um,
tendencies.
I think and yes, people do have a tendency in our current age to identify with ideas very closely, to feel that any attack on an idea is an attack on them. And I really want to discourage that. I want us to approach this from a scientific perspective.
Mhm.
I want us to
It's not
try
personal,
to, well,
but it
yeah,
is.
no, no, it's
No,
not. It's
no.
not. It's really not.
It's really not.
It's
It can feel
it's
like it.
it can feel like it, and
Yes.
I've experienced this too.
Yeah.
Like coming from our general culture, um, reading and like, here's the thing. A lot of us are very inspired by these texts when we
Mhm.
first start.
Mhm.
And I think that inspiration is something really important that we need to hold on to. Um, and I think part of the inspiration, the thing that should be most inspiring to us is our ability to change our views and
Mhm.
grow.
Change our minds. Yeah.
But also to stand on business
Yeah.
when we have landed on something, when we do truly understand it. It's a hard balance, and I maybe this is a bit too much of a tangent, and I
No,
hope
no.
that this is not uh, coming off too strongly to the people in the audience. So maybe you'll edit this down, but like,
Yeah, well, I think that what we're ultimately trying to get at here is that there are many different interpretations of Marx and Lenin and their writings. Not all of them are correct, and that's okay.
yeah,
Because the larger movement here is meant to do discourse. Science is not about remaining stagnant and the same and not allowing for growth or change of mind and change of heart. And
we need to be students first and
yeah,
foremost.
and that's
We
and
need to be
that's
students of what we know so far from like text, from historical, from history, from the movement prior.
And be willing to
And
divorce our own personal feelings from the reality of a situation rather than allowing ourselves to become intertwined with the like with allowing our emotions to fully dictate rather than also logical explanation can
sure,
make
yeah.
a situation in which we are actually operating from a scientific perspective rather than a reactionary one. But that doesn't mean that emotional responses are not welcomed or encouraged. It just shouldn't be the only way in which we interact with the world
Mm, yes.
and
All
interact
right.
with the movement.
So we've
So
established our ethos. We've
we've
established our
established,
purpose. We've
and now
established
we
what slogans
have
are.
the tier list, which I
The
am
tier
so
list.
excited for.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes. Love it.
Look,
Okay.
نقلنا عربية. Okay.
What? I didn't. Oh, I keep forgetting you speak Arabic? Yes. Everyone, go check out Comrade Sofia's music. It's
I
quite
don't
good.
have you are not going to find my music anywhere, wallah.
But you can if you really know.
No, if you search very hard.
If you search very hard. But can you see my tier
Okay,
list?
let's go. Yes, I can
Okay.
see your tier list. It's a beautiful tier list.
It's a
It's full
beautiful
of
tier
many good
list.
slogans.
Many good slogans. I have 21 slogans here for us to look over and to talk about and to rank. In the initial tier list I created, these all categories had names, but alas, here we are. So we're just going to go S tier through D tier. S tier,
Sure.
I would call like Comrade Lenin approved. This is the slogan.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This slogan
This is the
is
shit.
this is the
Oops, sorry.
shit.
This is the
No, but it is.
Wait, we can't say that on
We
air.
can't say it on air. I'll have to bleep that one out. But this is
Sure.
the stuff. This has got the juice.
Yes.
We'll
Yeah.
call A tier is like Twitter leftist trademarked. um,
Sure. Sure. On the right track.
oh, you're getting there
In the right area.
in the right vein. B tier, I would call social democratic silliness, as what I would
Right spirit. Right.
spirit.
Right leaning.
Right leaning, Bernie Sanders-esque. Um, C tier is what I would call like we're we're not in leftist territory. We're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. You know,
We're not in Kansas. That's fine. Yeah.
we're not in Kansas. And then D tier is shit lib.
Sure.
Or
Which you'll
perhaps
also have to bleep.
yeah, which I'll well, it's beep lib.
My
So
God.
with all of that said, the first slogan that I have today is no gods, no masters. What do you think?
Starting off strong.
Starting off strong.
Um, let's see. Uh, no gods, no masters. I like the no gods part. I
Mm,
think that's good.
hmm
I think that's a strong start.
I can agree with it.
Um,
I get the vibes. I'm seeing the vision.
no masters, pretty good. But let's ask what this is meant to convey, right? I
Hmm
think most of us should be familiar that this is an anarchist slogan.
hmm
Um, and what is meant by masters in this sense is, from what I understand, meant the well, I mean, it means communism, right? It means the dictatorship of the proletariat.
Right.
Um, the version of that it means, in addition to capitalism, the version of the dictatorship of the proletariat is a very distorted, propagandistic, a broken view. And I think it's a view that a lot of us on the left, like even in the Marxist-Leninist movement, have yet to really unlearn,
hmm
is like, you know, both to understand because we, for a lot of reasons, I think Grover Furr mentioned this, most people, we don't know what happened in the USSR. We have not had the
hmm
primary documents until very recently, and we don't even have all of those.
This is true.
Um, So the version of the Soviet Union that we see is a one-man dictatorship, a bureaucratic nightmare to, which to some extent, especially later on, it kind of was.
Yeah,
Um,
most certainly.
so really what the slogan boils down to, in the end is a kind of an acceptance of the liberal narrative and an inability to distinguish lies from truth.
Yeah.
Um, and a sort of, you know, a rejection of what is a terrible lie.
Mm.
So I would put this in what's the what oh my God, let me
I
let me
would
find the category.
I would say A tier. Twitter leftist
A
trademark.
tier. Really?
I'm just gonna
I was
say what would you, are we gonna say something lower or higher?
I was gonna say I was gonna give it a sock dem silliness.
You know what? With how vague it is now, I can accept that because I was gonna put it in A tier because it feels like something I would see in someone's like Twitter mentions, like I don't know, or like their replies, perhaps even with a little sickle and hammer next to their name, on X or some shit. But I
I
can.
mean, to be fair, it is Twitter leftist, but
It is Twitter leftist.
I think by virtue of the fact that it has a drop of that, what how did you name it originally? Of the liberal cosplaying,
Yeah.
I think that does bump it down to
Okay.
sock dem silliness for me.
We're going soft in. Let me go ahead and just.
I think wait, left you're I think you've put it in
Okay.
you've put
Well.
it in you've put it in Twitter leftist. I think it's Lenin approved, leftist trademarked,
Oh yeah.
Twitter
Oh.
leftist, sock dem silliness, liberals cosplaying.
Okay. Oh yeah. My bad, everyone.
So I'm putting it in C tier.
Yes. Oh wow. We are. This is not a strong start. This man is. This man is. Look at this. This man is struggling in sock dem silliness. This is
But
bad.
actually, you know what? I think we can take it up. I think let's put it up to Twitter leftist because no gods is really strong.
Yes. I would. Okay. I would say Twitter leftist. I realize I need to actually I don't know how to spell, and I also need to actually label the. um,
Sorry, I like the names. You can't
yes,
prevent me from using the
no,
names.
I
Conrad
can't.
Lenin.
And
Leave it as Conrad, please.
Conrad and then A tier was what was it? Leftist trademarked.
Leftist trademarked, yeah.
Oh my God,
Trademarked.
trademarked. There we go. Trade knackered.
Trademarked. Trademarked.
Trademarked. I think that one kind of works.
That
Just a
does
little
work.
bit. Okay, so now that we finally have those in, I would
Sure.
agree. Twitter leftists, no gods, no masters, um, and just because the no gods part, I feel kind of implies a form of like atheism,
A
also
secularism. Let's say a
secularism.
secularism.
Yeah, that I can appreciate. So I do like that. But our next slogan is abolish the police. What are we thinking?
Mm.
Ooh,
So this is more actionable, right? No gods, no
it
masters
is.
is a statement of belief. It's a statement of intent. Abolish the police. This is something um actionable.
It is. It feels more radical than,
Yeah.
but I also
But
see problems with it.
well, yeah, let's get into the problem. So what are the police? Um
Hmm,
the police are the one of the tools of the enforcement of class domination.
true.
Um so their existence is not something separate from class society. Um, their existence is not something separate from the existence of classes. Um, the police as an institution, I think we do discuss sometimes how like they were born from the slave trade, right?
It's true.
Um,
Yeah, I've mentioned it many a time.
at least in America, in America. But I think what we also need to keep in mind is that like that wasn't just about like racism. It was about the slavery part. It was about class domination. It was about like basically destroying or suppressing the ability of the enslaved class to revolt in any
Hmm.
way. It was about property.
Hmm.
Um,
It was the protection of private property.
yeah. Well, fine. I mean, yeah. Uh, so these police are a tool of class society, and this also means that in a socialist society, although they would serve a very different function, they would
Hmm.
serve the working class in the
Hmm.
suppression of the capitalist class, at least for a period until the capitalist class no longer exists.
Hmm.
Um, that is a fact. That is a fact of historical development. That is not um, like something which you can change. You're not going to change the fact that in a society which has classes, there will be formed special bodies for the domination of another one class by another. Now, if we are talking about the abolition of the bourgeois police, of the
Hmm.
institution of the police, of um, you know, the racism and everything built into the current police system, now we're talking. Um, uh, but if we're just saying abolish the police when we're just talking about, an enforcing body in the service of the ruling class, that being hopefully in socialism, like the working class, then maybe we're on a bit more shaky ground. It's harder to because if we're saying abolish the police in that context, at the same we're saying abolish working class power. We're
Hmm.
abolishing the ability of the working class to um like suppress the capitalist class.
Right. So it's
So
like, would you say that like so like abolish the police? It should also encapsulate like abolish the military, you know?
yeah, if we're talking about the bourgeois military, right? If we're
Yeah.
talking about, I think it's difficult because we also have to remember this is an action item, right? This
Hmm.
is this is an immediate goal, um, which
Right.
oftentimes is not given in a revolutionary context as an agitational thing, but it's given in the sense of like this is something we want within the context of our certain current society.
Right.
Otherwise, like
It's not saying
usually there are
abolish. It's not saying abolish class like the class structure and like, implement communism.
right,
It's
and abolishing itself. That's a one fell swoop kind of implication, which isn't really it's not the course that class struggle takes in
Mhm.
reality. Um, because like abolishing classes is not just simply removing a title. It's um it's like the forceful imposition of new social relations.
Yeah, abolishing the police ultimately means abolishing the bourgeois rule over working class means of
Right.
production. And
But it doesn't convey that.
no, and I would say in this, with especially with the way this phrase has been co-opted, um, I am inclined to put it in sock dem silliness,
Really.
or perhaps even
I
liberals cosplaying.
mm, I
Be-
think I think okay, here's one counterpoint though.
okay.
I think it does represent the revolutionary aspirations to some extent of like those who are most oppressed and mistreated by the police.
Hmm.
And for its role as an expression of that, is it perhaps a incomplete expression of that like revolutionary energy? I think so. Um, but I don't think it's I think I wouldn't put it in leftist trademark. I think that it does come from a uninformed position. But
Yeah,
I think it belongs in Twitter leftist. I believe it's
yeah.
genuine
Okay.
and like if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. I think it sounds it is a genuine need. It's expressing a genuine need for abolition of like the class structure without, I think, fully understanding how that, because it's a slogan. It's not able
Right.
to fully convey how that's done
And
or
the
what.
hope of a slogan is that it does convey as much of that as possible.
Yeah, so I think Twitter leftist works because, I mean, there are plenty of Twitter leftists out there who I would say convey it in a very meaningful sense, because it could also be used as a hashtag after a tweet, perhaps, in the discussion of class analysis. So I
Maybe.
think that
I think there's the other aspect here of like when when we are fighting some sort of on the ground struggle and we use this slogan, is this the kind of thing where we can fight for reform from it, or is it the kind of thing that's going to be dismissed and met with violence? Stuff like this is a later slogan we'll get to, but community control of the police. It's a lot more like you could allow this to the powers that be, and the fact
mm,
that they will not is much more of an indictment. With
right.
abolish the police, there's an aspect of, oh, you're crazy,
Yeah.
you know. There's this ability to leverage the predominant liberal attitude.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
it's like liberals don't take it as seriously. I would say they definitely take community control of the police a little more seriously, because it's
or
not about,
they could.
they could, and it's because it's not about outright abolishing the police structure, which many of them unfortunately still respect and agree with its existence. Not some of them not
Exactly.
fully
And
aware
so
of its.
this isn't to say that the short-term goal is like everything, but
Right.
that in the context of tactics, not no overarching strategy, but just day-to-day tactics in the class struggle, different fronts of the class struggle. Um, abolish the police, I think, has a little less effectiveness as a
Hmm.
slogan. And now that's making me want to move it back down to SOCDEM silliness.
What did I say? It was I okay. I'm gonna defend the Twitter leftist position just a little more, only because I do feel like there is a distinct class analysis within this slogan, which can be used by um in the within the context of like a Marxist-Leninist movement for the ultimate larger purpose of abolishing the class structure. Um, and
I
it's
don't know because you're still going to deal with that problem of like, anarchists laugh at it, but like the people's
mm,
police. Like,
that's true. Okay, I'm gonna have to agree that Stockton silliness, I think, may be the move.
yeah.
I'm sorry, abolish the
There are
police.
there are better slogans for the task at hand.
Yes, there are better slogans. And this brings us to the third slogan, eat the rich. I have a lot of feelings about this one.
Sure. Go ahead. I have very few feelings about this one.
Um, so I'm gonna assume we're kind of around the same age,
I think so.
due to our discussions prior. I was around 16 when I started hearing this slogan in 2020.
Hmm.
Um, and it was around the George Floyd protests, which I do actually have Black Lives Matter on here because I'm
Yes.
interested
Good, good,
to
good.
see how this one has held up ever since
Mm.
liberals have kind of co-opted
Go
it for
on.
their own movements.
Sure.
But Eat the Rich was also part of this, especially
Hmm.
during COVID. That was a big one. It
Mm-hmm.
really, really sharpened those class divides that I feel um, like, especially like if you think about like the '08 housing crisis and like how sharp the class divides were then as well. Eat the Rich was kind of something that came out of that, and it's something that stuck with me as kind of growing up from my teenage years to like my early 20s now. And I don't think it's as effective as it would like to be, and I also think
It's edgy.
it's edgy, but I don't know if it actually conveys what, as a Marxist-Leninist, I fully believe needs to be done about the class struggle.
Sure.
How do you feel
And
about
also,
it?
what is the context we use this in, right?
What does eat the rich mean for real?
It's expressing anger,
Mm-hmm.
and anger is it's not politically versatile.
Mm-hmm. I would I would say it's easy to say because it's so vague.
Yeah.
What is and it's also like
It's raw as hell. Like it's
it
so good.
is.
Like
It's
actually,
great.
can I I'm gonna take on us on a side tangent for the viewers.
Okay.
I believe that the APL, I believe we do actually have a Eat the Rich like graphic like
Oh.
sticker shirt, which that goes so fucking hard. But you know, to take it back down to earth,
Mhm.
it doesn't convey much. It's edgy, it's cool. Um, but it doesn't have a lot of utility.
No, I would go so far as to just say Twitter leftist because I don't think it's a liberal. I don't think it's something that a liberal would say.
Sure.
Because liberals ultimately don't believe in
Well, there are edgy
taking.
liberals.
There are edgy liberals. There are. Um, I guess, yeah. I mean, there are liberals who are kind of in this weird zone, like they're disillusioned enough to kind of see the class dynamics and understand, like, and kind of understand the very surface level understanding of what class struggle is, but really don't have a ton of context for like how it's carried out, and have
Sure,
probably
sure.
not read
Also another problem with this slogan, who are the rich?
yeah. What is how do
Is
we
that the bourgeoisie? Is that the petty bourgeoisie? Is that the intelligentsia? Okay. For all the comrades in the audience, for all five of you who can speak Turkish, um, there is this fantastic article. You don't actually need to know Turkish for this, because you can just like Google translate it. But there's this fantastic article from the journal Theorie ve Eylem, um, which I'll ask Felicity to add
Mhm. Description perhaps?
in the yeah, 1 second. Um, but it discusses basically Theorie Elam. It discusses the nature of white collar intelligentsia work, where it
Mhm.
fits in the class divide. I think this is something that there's a lot of confusion around, especially, I mean, pretty much everywhere. Like bourgeois sociologists love to make this topic confusing.
Yeah.
So I'll find this article and send it to you. But you know, who is the rich?
Yeah, and like how do we measure that? How do we understand it and contextualize it? Um and like it's like trying to understand like when you're forming a union, for example. Um what is the difference between your manager and
Hmm.
you and the rest of your coworkers?
Right.
It's like, do they have hiring and firing power? What are the dynamics exactly? Eat
Hmm.
the Rich, I don't feel like really fleshes that out, but is it supposed to? Not
Well, it's
really.
not supposed to, and that's kind of the problem.
Yeah. And so I would definitely put it in the Twitter leftist. Like I feel like it's more of a Twitter leftist saying, perhaps. But
I think that's too high.
do you think so? Okay,
I
okay,
I I well, I think liberals cosplaying.
okay. You know what?
Meet in the middle at sock dem silliness.
Meet in the middle. Meet in the middle. I can accept that. I only say that because I feel like liberals cosplaying. You know what? No, you make a really good point actually. I'm starting to see the vision. I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry. Eat the rich. You're not, because it doesn't actually convey any revolutionary intent, nor does it
It just conveys, yeah,
general
like
apathy.
Yeah.
I
Now,
feel.
can I take 2 seconds to just 2 minute break?
Yeah, definitely. Let me go ahead and resume. Okay,
We're back.
onward and upward. We
Onward
are
and upward.
we have moved Eat the Rich to liberals cosplaying. Um, this was a hard decision, guys. It wasn't. No, it's true. It conveys a lot of liberal apathy for and discontent with the current system, but it's not really conveying any any way out of that, nor is it trying to understand the scientific class dynamics behind it. So we have put it in liberals cosplaying, and
Yeah.
the next one, next up,
We should try to pick up the pace a little bit because
we
I
should,
think yeah, there are some ones I really want to discuss in depth,
yeah,
but I think we've gotten in our rhythm. Let's
we've got yes. Let's do this. Okay. When blank rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. How are we feeling? What is the initial
liberals
thoughts?
cosplaying.
Liberals
Liberals
cosplaying.
cosplay. Okay.
Period.
Do you understand why?
I want you to explain it first because I feel like you probably will put it much more succinctly and in a much better understanding than I could.
What are we like? What it's generic. It's
It's
too
so
generic.
generic. It's so generic. It's also okay, I understand its utility.
I mean,
Especially
it sounds good at a
it
chant.
does. Um, but it's so vague.
It's very vague. Um, it doesn't really address the peculiarities of like particular identity struggles. It doesn't address why like those identity and struggles are important, how they are fronts on the class struggle. Um, it all it represents is it doesn't even represent like the class struggle. It's just like, oh, the bourgeois class like made an affront against workers in some capacity. Like we're gonna fight back. Like
Yeah.
we're reacting to it.
It's
There's
very reactionary.
well, not reactionary in the
Mm,
like political sense, but like
no.
it has it it's giving syndicalism. Um it's giving like I don't know.
It's
It's
giving that
giving
wilted rose emoji.
that the rose emoji. Jesus Christ. Sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to say it. It's giving. It's just, I like it in the context of a protest, especially when you have more radical elements there. But unfortunately, if this
That's the
chant,
key. You need it.
yeah,
It needs to be a nice rhythmic like filler between like much more radical and driving slogans.
which is why I could get behind it if it was in the context of more radical um people and groups and a coalition perhaps. But I understand that it is very co-opted by liberals.
Mm.
And has gotten to a point where it doesn't really mean um, anything radical at this point, besides when liberals are uncomfortable with the status quo being fucked with.
Yep.
And so this brings us to no kings. I feel like this is a no-brainer.
Except the British monarchy.
Except the British monarchy,
Liberals cosplaying.
liberals cosplay. And I also feel like we could do that for community control of the police, which is the next one.
Mm.
It's just it's the same. It when we were talking about abolish the police, I was waiting for us to get to community control of the police because I'm like, this I have a lot of problems with.
Really?
I do.
Oh, I disagree so heavily.
You do. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Does it sound radical? Not particularly. Does it sound edgy? Not particularly. But it has a very specific utility in the current struggle to combat racist and political oppression, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the slogan of community control of the police has a very specific action item, like
Mm-hmm.
a all community, all civilian elected board to directly with hiring, firing power, like etc. Like that is a very direct, actionable thing, which um, many activists have used and campaigned on, and with the like bourgeois stripping of those campaigns used as means of exposing the capitalist politicians.
Hmm.
Is it and but actually beyond that, yes, it is quite a revolutionary slogan, because what are those proletarian police that we like mentioned earlier? They're not unaccountable
Hmm.
to the community. They're not unaccountable to the working class.
Okay.
Community control of the police is trying to introduce a democratic and socialist measure in everyday language,
Hmm.
um, in a way that is to some extent viable also as a reform. This is an S tier slogan for me.
You think so? Whoa.
I think so.
Okay. The only big problem, because I agree with a lot of what you said actually, and I think you really changed my mind, because I was under the impression with this one that it just felt like it was maintaining the what the police are, simply moving the control to petty bourgeois for
Oh, you read community as oh, interesting.
that's because I view the police TM perhaps, through the lens of what the police are now. But if we're saying the community control of the police means completely dismantling what the current
Well,
policing
here's the thing:
forces
is that it
are.
doesn't. That's the thing: is it is a slogan of reform. It is a slogan for a very particular kind of form of a democratizing reform that yes, the police, after maybe such a political action, they would perhaps be or like they will have all of that uh training and everything. But think about what like if we take community control in the sense of like a democratic worker controlled like situation, that means hiring and firing power, that means
Mhm.
investigatory power. It's the democracy inherent in that situation is a weapon in the hands of the working class
Hmm.
to keep the police in line. Now, in a capitalist context, the contradictions in this are
Hmm.
imminent, right? Like there is going to be a prolonged and ongoing, and there has been with the actual attempt to fight for this, like struggle uh, of the capitalists to strip that democratic power to make it unviable.
Hmm.
Um, but the actual slogan, and to read community as petty bourgeois, maybe we gotta look at how it's actually applied though, and in what context it's
True.
used as well.
True. Well,
And
if it's also being used in the context of a Marxist-Leninist movement, then that would mean that the petty bourgeois
yes, yeah.
would be dismantled as a class, and the
Not
community
necessarily
control.
petty. The smaller petty bourgeois are not. They may be sympathetic to socialism. That's a whole other.
That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is community control of the police is more about what happens after the revolution. How do we move
No, no,
around
no,
the
no.
levers of power?
It's both. It's
It's
both, right?
both.
Community control of the police captures the essence of a democratic and socialist like uh force for like weapon in the hands of the dictatorship of the proletariat, and it acts as a temporary reform. It acts as a temporary reform, a potentially somewhat effective temporary reform that also points to a more revolutionary vision.
A democratic workplace, for example, and um, yeah, okay. I'm seeing the vision here. Okay, I could settle for leftist trademarked. But
Really?
if you feel strong about moving it up to S tier, then I
So
can work
so
with that.
what's the hesitation?
The hesitation is just the police. It's this feeling of like when you
Well,
say
we established earlier
well,
that the police, the name it doesn't matter. The police
Well,
are the force in the hands of the ruling class at a given moment.
and it's well, okay, and that's true, and I definitely agree with that. But it's oh, what was I like reform. I tend to be a little shy about reform and how I feel about it because I fear that if we introduce reform as a possibility, that certain actors will see it as something that we can just move towards as our
Sure.
to basically negate a class struggle.
So let's talk about reform as a front of the class struggle.
Hmm.
Reform is not at all like in an area of the class struggle that we should dismiss or that we should ignore. Certain like electoral campaigns, certain non these things that are not led by revolutionary elements, should we invest a ton of energy in them? Perhaps
Hmm.
not. But reforms themselves, they can serve as a school of organizing, right? They can
True.
serve as a school of getting people out to vote, to express their opinions in a legal setting. It can serve as a school of mobilization, right?
Political
Um,
education, perhaps.
Political education. It can also serve as like the National Alliance Against Racist and National Repression.
Hmm.
Um, it is the one running the main community control of the police like uh, campaign,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
that is the ethos that they approach it with. Um,
Okay.
it's not a like yeah, is a reform. Yes, but that is not enough to tell us its class character. That is not enough to tell its character as a tool for organizing. That is not enough to tell us um, its uh, you know, it
Hmm.
is it something temporary in that sense? Yes. But it is
Okay.
something temporary which also has in it like imminently the ability to untangle and illuminate class struggle.
Okay. You know what? You have convinced me. I think that this is
Yes.
yes. Okay. We're going Comrade Lenin style here. This is our first S
Perfect.
tier slogan, community control of the police. Next up is land back. How are we feeling?
Hmm. Land back.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's a lot in this one. There's a
There's a
lot in
lot.
this one. So let's start with some history, right? Um, I don't actually know how far back. I actually wait, no, I do. I do know how far back the land back slogan goes. I completely forgot I knew this. So the history of uh, the American Indian movement. Um, uh, well, there's the one in the 70s, but also going back the
Mm,
indigenous struggles for self-determination.
right.
Um, these have been ongoing, of course, since the establishment of the United States as a nation, since it's uh, settled, like since the settler movements that it has pursued, first as a method for the expansion of the slave trade,
Hmm.
and then for early capitalism, and then later on as a method for closing the interior for completing the circulation of capital in the
Hmm.
entire landmass that is America.
Hmm.
Um, both of these things, both the development of the United States as a nation and the development of imperialism have trampled and trampled on and destroyed the like indigenous nationalities
That's true.
of of like the present day United States.
Hmm.
Um, so when we're talking about land back, I think when you're looking at its actual use in movements, consider something like the I think it's like let me double check this. I should know this. I'm in Minnesota. Um,
Land back.
uh, 1 second.
No, you're good.
The Dakota pipeline struggle. Um, the Dakota pipeline struggle saw the use of this slogan as because the Dakota pipeline was a pipeline that was planned out by an oil company, which passed through uh, sovereign indigenous territory.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was passed through Standing Rock's Sioux land. Now, if you know anything about in indigenous, the state, like the legal state of indigenous nations, it is extremely precarious. There are the reservations, which have some degree of independence, uh, especially like in lawmaking and policy and stuff. But
True.
citizens of the like United States of that nation, indigenous law does not apply to them when they are indigenous land on indigenous land. United States law applies to them. Moreover, um, a lot of indigenous land is not actually on the reservations. It's on privately owned land, which was, there was this attempt by the United States to destroy the indigenous nations by privatizing their land away from the collective system into private lots for individual indigenous families.
I see.
Um,
So it's
and
form of
so
distribution of private property.
But yeah, the distribution of private property. So both of these have combined to a situation where the control and the reservations also are now under the protectorship of the United States. A lot of the
Right.
times, there's a lot of that land which is under. So all of these things lead to a situation where indigenous nations, in the localities that they inhabit, those localities extend beyond the reservations. And on the reservations, off the reservations, the rights of these nations to um, to the land they inhabit uh, is not respected. Their right to self-determination, to political like self-organization is not respected. Their right to like prosecute those who commit crimes on in like
Indigenous.
within the borders of their nations
Yeah.
are trampled on. The land back in this context is really a slogan of national liberation. It's a slogan that says,
not all different from like the
no.
Palestinian cause.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
It's a slogan that says no more like this is like this is our land.
Right.
At the same time, there's another aspect to this, right? Which is that this slogan, especially by some like sections of the online left, and some sections of indigenous societies, there's something we should keep in mind is that, no nation, no nationality is a monolith.
Yeah.
We are like all nations have progressive, revolutionary, internationalist elements, and like reactionary, capitalist, and like chauvinist elements.
Yeah.
And there is a certain strain of this slogan, which is not the main form of the slogan's existence, except in particular, like online, mostly non like indigenous, mostly discourse had by non-indigenous people, which envisions land back as actually let's actually remove that them from the equation because it is a bit of a straw man. It's the worst
Well,
example. Let's go to it. Let's go to a better example. The academics who identify land back as the return of control of the land to the nations which
indigenous.
originally inhabited it.
Yeah.
That control in these academic senses, in these it is not often well defined or real.
And it's also,
Sometimes
oh, sorry.
sometimes it takes the form of, because remember, there are class divisions within indigenous societies just like every other society, especially with the advent of capitalism. Capitalism has been introduced everywhere. There are indigenous capitalists who take the slogan of land back to mean like, this land belongs to us, the
Private,
capitalists of the indigenous nation,
right.
to right to make a profit from.
Which
At
is,
this,
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, there's some. I'll let you hop in a second, but I
Yeah.
just want to like cover the whole
Hmm.
spectrum of this. There's also this sort of liberal kind of wishy-washy sense of like, oh, we just want to allow indigenous people to like practice their ancestral traditions, but we're not actually gonna like capitalism is still going to operate. This
Hmm.
land is not going to be returned in any meaningful way. We're
Right.
just going to allow these token uh, moments of cultural practice. So, you
Okay.
know, there's this spectrum of the use of the phrase land back outside of the context of national liberation. There's a
Hmm.
spectrum of its use as a liberal slogan, as a narrow capitalist slogan, as an ethnocentrist slogan.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think that that negates the fact that this is a slogan which is very powerful for establishing and defending the rights of indigenous nations uh, to um, you know what's like
To have,
healthcare sovereignty, um, or like uh, environmental justice,
yeah.
um, uh, like freedom of movement, freedom to use, like freedom of language, freedom of cultural practice, um, like the rights of nations, the rights of nationalities.
So would you, what would you want to put land back then? Because I feel like from what you've just said here, feel like land back could honestly go in any of them. I'm a
It's
little
it's kind of a
torn.
million slogans wrapped into
It
one.
is. It's so vague, it feels like. It captures so much and so little, depending on
Hmm.
what context we're talking about. I would
Right.
say land back. I am inclined to put it in leftist trademarked or narked, as we have it
Mm.
listed, because I feel like land back does mean a lot of progressive values. It's just when you also consider it in the context of um,
It does not
bourgeois,
belong only to the proletariat. It does not
no,
only belong to the oppressed.
but it can represent proletariat interests depending
Yeah.
on if it's being used within the movement at that given time. I would say, where would you want to
I
put
think
it?
I think I agree with leftist trademark. I think it is a fine slogan, but the attempts, either academic or um, bourgeois or like uh, certain psychiasts kind
Hmm.
of um, ethnocentric uh, versions of it. I think. Oh, I lost the word. I think it does serve as fuck. Uh,
No,
yeah, I think left is trademarked. It's
I
not a
think
perfect slogan, but
it's
when it's
not.
used well, it is used well.
And that's why I like it within the correct context that I can get behind. That I can say like, okay, yes, this is a movement I agree with. This is, this has the elements of like class consciousness that are necessary. Land back can be very effective. So I would say leftist trademarked. It doesn't fully reach Comrade Lenin approved just because it has
It's not foolproof.
it's not foolproof, but it's getting there. And if it was workshopped a little bit more and taken to a higher level with a Marxist-Leninist perhaps led movement, I think land back is very effective at like national liberation, especially for indigenous people, with the understanding of class struggle and like not giving into bourgeois expectations.
Sure.
So our next one tonight is From the River to the Sea, Palestine Will Be Free.
Comrade Lenin approved.
Comrade Lenin approved.
Now, you might ask, why is this Comrade Lenin approved and land back is leftist trademarked? There is a clear political statement here, right? Which is from the river to the sea. So we've defined a territory. That's another problem with land back also, is that like which land back to whom? Because like indigenous nations sometimes have mutually exclusive claims to land, as well as like mutually exclusive claims to land, but also differing like political needs, differing land back, it only operates once the political context is there.
But from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free means so like it's saying so much by saying so little. It's talking about
first of all,
it
has a definite content. It's a definite territory, right? It is defining from the river to the sea, the entire territory of Palestine. Palestine will be free. Palestine is the state defined. Free, we can understand to mean free from imperialist domination, free from occupation. This is a statement which perhaps, like linguistically, you could make an argument that it's vague. In practice, this is not vague, and it has never meant anything more or less than the fight for a single, unified, democratic, multinational, multi-ethnic state of like secular state of Palestine.
Yes.
Like that is the overwhelming consensus on what this means. There is not like, and like, except for the most like crudely and like kind of like, I don't know, idealist elements, there's not this sense of, idealist and racist, because it comes from the Zionists who believe, they want to push us all into the sea, right?
Which is like so not the point, and is such a bad faith critique, because it's not actually looking at what is the context of the slogan. Because Zionists, of course, aren't doing that, and we've talked about this in my episode on.
Zionists have a very particular within Zionist mythology, within their very particular interpretation of Jewish texts. Also, for context, I'm Jewish, have like read the Torah. I know a little bit of my shit.
Yeah.
They believe, and they take textual evidence from the Tanakh to support this, that like every generation an enemy will rise to defeat Israel, and every generation Israel will prevail. They view the existence of Palestinians as an existential threat. They are so lost
I
in
see.
the racist and the religious, like irrationalist um and the like disconnected from reality fascist sauce.
Hmm.
You know, not everyone, but there is a strong fascist movement with a strong influence on many organizations within uh, Israel
Well,
that teach this.
you could make an argument that the Likud party is like the fascist party of
Yeah, no,
Israel.
the Likud party is absolutely a fascist party. Yeah,
So, and I think that with this kind of pertaining to our next, I feel like the next two slogans kind of go together as well when we're talking about fascist elements. And we've been talking about the police, and we've been talking
sure,
about, these powers that be. We have no justice, no peace, fuck the blank police. This means like the Chicago police or the New York police, or,
mm,
just insert police force. And then next to it, I also just put fuck the police. It's
sure,
also the name of one of my favorite songs. So,
sure.
what are we
So
thinking?
no justice, no peace, fuck the police. We have the same problem as when blank rights are under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back.
Yeah.
We have the genericness. We also have the problem of the like misapprehension of what the police are and the inability to critique them from a like meaningful standpoint.
Hmm.
However, the Chicago police, the New York police, etc., I think that bumps it up to Twitter leftists from above abolish the police because I think it's specifying these institutions, right? Um,
Yes.
it doesn't have this sort of general anarchisty flavored vibe. It is it is a little more targeted and is a little more potent
Yeah.
because it is referring to the specific institutions which are terrorizing
And I
um,
and I would
oppressed communities.
and I'd absolutely agree with that. And even say like for fuck the police, I would put it in liberal cosplay.
Really?
And here's the thing. I think fuck the police in the context of Marxist-Leninist and or revolutionary movements, and leftist, like principled leftist movements, fuck the police is a great slogan, but it's vagueness, because like when you're calling out a specific department of the police, for example, the Minneapolis police,
Hmm.
um and their role in the murder of George Floyd, for example, that makes a lot more sense, which is why when we were talking about putting it in the Twitter leftist category, fuck the police. While I think it is the one kind slogan that liberals cannot cosplay, or that liberals cannot cosplay, liberals cannot co-opt, because it is so flagrant and out there. I also fear that it is still able to be co-opted in a certain sense. Not co-opted, just misunderstood, because it's so vague.
Mm.
But I
I
also
think
think I
I
have a lot
think
of
well also
feelings.
there's the other thing to consider. There's not an action item.
It's true. If there's not an action item, it feels like, okay, fuck the police. But when you really convince me about community control of the police, it feels like we're actually doing something about the larger system, and we're not necessarily only doing reformist activities, as it pertains to like the police force. But there
Hmm.
are many different elements that go into or not abolishing the police, but um, to creating a system in which the police are not oppressive. The control of the police is put in the hands of the proletariat rather than kept in
Hmm.
the hands of the bourgeois class. Fuck the
Right.
police feels it's a little too vague, but it's not, in certain contexts, it's not a bad one.
I think I think it has I think it's honestly best as like an element in art that has
Yeah.
more like context supporting it.
Yeah, so
Um,
would you say leftist trademarked, maybe?
I don't know if I'd say leftist trademarked. I think I put it also in Twitter leftist.
Okay, okay, I can get behind that. I can get behind that. So, our next one is none of us are free
Hmm,
until all of us are free. I kind of like this one, but I can understand
sure.
if there's critique.
Well, let's start with the positives. Um, it emphasizes uh, the fact that no proletarian power can be established without the incorporation of um, every oppressed group, without winning the broad support of the masses, and without um, combating chauvinism and discrimination, etc.
Mhm.
However, and this is going to be kind of an obscure point. I think we're definitely going to go over time, and you're probably going
Yeah,
to have to cut a lot of this down.
it's okay.
Um, I hope your tomorrow is really open.
It's gonna have to be, which it's not a big deal. It is. We're good.
Okay. Um, so something to kind of get into the weeds. Um, there are two conceptions of how the world works, essentially. There is the communist conception and there's the liberal conception. The communist conception um, understands that at the bottom of every political, ideological, artistic, cultural fact of our life lies at the bottom, like irreconcilable class antagonisms. This includes every front, I like to call them fronts of the class
Mhm.
struggle, every oppression um, of marginalized identities, every oppression of colonized and oppressed nations. Um, the uh, the fact is that all of these emerge as features of the class struggle, as particular realizations
Mhm.
of class conflict. And there's
For
another view.
example,
There's the liberal.
racism.
Sure, yeah, racism.
And
How
then there's
it starts as a way to enforce a particular class
mhm.
relation. It starts as a way to justify and uh, like promote eventually slavery. And when
Yeah.
slavery as a system, not, here's the thing, not, yes, throughout the entire history of slavery, there was resistance to it. There was ideological, objection to it.
Mhm.
It was not until that, like, like moral and ideological rejection, as well as the actual resistance of the enslaved themselves, was combined with a crisis in the slave system, with a
Mhm.
crisis in the ability of the enslaver class to continue um, to make a profit off of slavery. It was not until an economic and political crisis was reached um, that slavery was able to be abolished.
Mhm.
Economics lies at the bottom of it, right?
Mhm.
Slavery or racism never became self-sustaining. It always leeches off of the more fundamental class elements. Post-slavery sharecropping, basically a form of feudalism.
Mhm.
Post sharecropping, um, like slavery got, or not slavery, but racism became a new tool of class domination to say, well, some workers are this and some workers are that. They have nothing in common. They have no way
Right.
to work with each other. And moreover, some of them, when one section wins democratic rights, when one section wins healthcare, when one section wins a shorter working day, well, that other section, like the black worker, he doesn't get it.
Yeah. It's almost like the
Racism serves as a way to preserve um, capitalist exploitation, and it continues to develop with imperialism, etc. So racism is about money. Like
right.
it
And
is fundamentally about.
Yeah, well, it's also like, racism within like the feminist movement as well. Like it's very multidimensional, where it's like white women many of the time would not allow black women within the movement at the
Right.
beginning.
Yes. The dispersal of racism through the feminist movement by the institutions of bourgeois power kneecapped the feminist movement.
Hmm.
Um, uh, so what's this other liberal version? None of us are free until all of us are free. It also potentially implies a world in which racism, patriarchy, um, like uh, the oppression of queer people, the oppression of indigenous people, the oppression of disabled people exists as something fundamentally separate and self-sustaining. Yes,
Mm.
interconnected, but as something which um, is not necessarily inherently tied to the class struggle. And this is a real way in which this slogan has been used. Um, is this idea of, you know, none of us are free until all of us are free, being the idea of, oh, well, basically, you can't fight capitalism until you've dealt with XYZ. Not viewing these as an integral struggle that needs to be um, dealt with together as a single whole, but rather prioritizing um, certain elements of the class struggle above others, positing that no, actually, it's like patriarchy, which is the fundamental structure of society. No, it's racism. No, it's um, like the oppression of disabled people, etc. Um,
Mm.
and that, like that, there, the academic like ideology, which supports that idea. And I'm going to refer to the Turkish comrades again.
Ah,
Um,
bringing them back.
bringing them back. Are the theories of Althusser of
Yeah.
structuralist Marxism. This idea that the superstructure, the thing which exists above the economic level, um, can take a more fundamental role than the economic level, can take a more controlling role. That is
Mm.
the ideological basis on which that version of this slogan is built.
I
And
see.
honestly, this slogan isn't used very often by Marxists because there are much better slogans to convey the sense that that every instance of oppression is an attack on the working class.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think, and here's the thing, I have a soft spot for this slogan because I think it speaks very much to like this, like especially with Palestinian resistance and Palestinian
Mm,
like self-determination and all of the things as it pertains to that. I see this slogan as something of like a um like giving the ability to convey that, like especially to liberals, I think of like the No Kings protest this last time around, where they specifically were like no Palestinian, like no one wearing a keffiyeh, none of like no Palestinian advocacy was really allowed at the No Kings
mm.
protest. And so when I think of this slogan of none of us are free
As
until
a
all of us are
resistance
free,
to liberal narrow-mindedness.
which is where I come from on the subject of this slogan. However, I very much agree with what you're talking about with how liberals kind of divorce the phenomena of like racism and homophobia and transphobia and all of these different um, you know instances of and tools of oppression from the class struggle and capitalism, which is what they are rooted in, and
Mhm.
not really
So
being
honestly,
able.
I think a lot of the use of the slogan and these ideas, oftentimes it is what those scholars accuse Marxists of being, which is class reductionist, because they reduce the idea of class to simply
This vague term of
classism,
and this vague term of
to
freedom.
mistreatment, yeah, to mistreatment of the working class, which they view as an income bracket and not as a like relation
And
within
a dynamic relation
production
of production and of capital, and how it's
of capital and
and
exploitation.
and
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and violence, and who gets to do it. against who? You
Right,
know,
of political power. Yes.
political power. So where would we put this then, do you think? It feels like we've thrown out a lot of ideas here.
Um, I am tempted to put it in SOCDEM silliness. I think there's
Yes,
that progressive element, but I think by and large it's
it's giving.
liberals cosplaying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's giving just enough to where I'm not going to put it in liberals cosplaying because I feel like it deserves a little better than that. But I'm not going
Yeah.
to put it in Twitter leftists because Twitter leftists honestly wouldn't make that a hashtag. It's too long. um,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I really like that analysis, and I think you really grounded a lot of what I was trying to understand about the slogan that really puts it in much better perspective. And so I'm interested to see what you actually have to say about this one. Respect existence or expect resistance. It's very wordy.
I honestly think, um, same problem as no justice, no peace. Same problem as what do we do? Stand up, fight back.
Yet, because I
But
like it on the surface.
mhm,
I do. But I,
I've
I,
not seen it applied. I've not seen it applied well politically,
and it
or like I haven't seen it
also,
applied effectively politically.
it's a little too anarchy coded for me. Um,
It's a little too tabby kitten.
it's yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that.
Yeah. You know about the I don't know what it's called. Like now I'm thinking of black and tans.
Well, I feel like it's it's like what we were talking about, like, wait, where did all my other
Well,
ones go?
I think sometimes I do see it in the context of Palestinian resistance, which like fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can respect existence or expect resistance. I kind of want to move it up to Socdem silliness just because of that.
Okay. I can get behind that actually. I feel like that's not I just I feel like I would see it on an Instagram infographic from So Informed, if you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Which I do like
Yeah.
So Informed. I think that it's a solid account if you're looking for like non super like bourgeois fashy like news, because they've definitely gotten a little more radical over the years. But they're still too vague, which is how I
Hmm.
feel about a respect existence or expect resistance. But I can also see myself using it in a context of like a specific struggle, like for example,
Mm,
oppression against like trans people. If I was going out
sure,
to a
sure.
rally to support trans folks, I could see myself saying something like that. Um, it's specifically in the context of like, if you're going to oppress my trans comrades, I'm going to resist against that. I'm
Sure.
going to move against that. But it's still there are still problems, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
So next up, all power to the Soviets. This one feels like a no-brainer.
Classic.
Hello.
Put it in liberals cosplaying.
What?
So, reason. What the fuck
Whoa.
does that mean today?
That's true. I'm trying to be a
Listen, we don't
Bolshevik.
have Soviets.
We do in my
We don't
heart.
have workers' councils. What are you talking about?
We do in my heart. We do in my heart,
No,
comrade.
I mean, this slogan has been discussed extensively in the classic literature. It was, of course, a very appropriate slogan at its given time. It's a classic example used to teach like reading slogans. And there's no reason to use this today unless you're literally LARPing. Like,
But what if I am?
what if you are?
No, I'm not. I'm not. But I just it's so sad because
It
they were
is.
so goated. No, no, you're right. You're right. I wanted to put it in S tier because I have so much like love for the early Soviet Union and like everything that they were doing back then. Um, but I very much you You're right. You're right. It's just sad. It
Yeah.
is. I'm sad about
How
it.
far we've fallen.
How far we've fallen. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
okay, 2 seconds for another break.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We're on the last leg here.
Last leg.
Last
Okay.
leg. We're doing it. All right, here we go. Boom. We have land bread peace.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I could go Twitter leftist.
Twitter leftist? I think so.
I could, yeah. This I generally have no real feelings about this one.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter. Okay. I'm gonna have my moment for a second.
Okay.
Um, I the Black Lives Matter movement, I think, really exposed a ton of dynamics within America's, system, which
Hmm.
we cannot discount when we're talking about how it has also been heavily co-opted by liberals.
Sure.
I think Black Lives Matter at its core was always a radical statement, in that not necessarily discussing class dynamics, but discussing
It was
where, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. It was, you know, it was essentially saying to the capitalist imperialist system, though we might not have realized it at the moment. It was essentially saying to the system, which is so not just careless, but actively
Harmful.
hostile towards life and actively
Yeah.
hostile towards Black life and Indigenous life and the life of like
People of
uh
color.
everyone who has been racialized by the
Yeah.
system. That like it is an expression of humanity and a a declaration of right. It is no pasaran. Like
Yes.
it is the best version we saw of land back, right?
I can agree with that. And I think that it's terribly sad the way that it was co-opted, and the ways in which there were a lot of promises made and a lot of trust put into, for example, like the Democratic Party and by the Democratic
Mm,
Party to do the
right.
changes
And and
necessary.
that's actually that actually goes back to what racism is that part of the way racism has developed under imperialism has developed into what I call like bourgeois pluralism
Mm,
of we will representation without rights.
right. It's very empty. It's like saying, well, we had a black president. What more do you want?
Hmm.
You know?
And so I think there's a very twisted way in which, right, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so his Black life matters,
Mm. Yeah, and it's
but Black lives do not matter.
right. And it's incredibly sad because there still hasn't been, in my opinion, justice for Breonna Taylor and justice for, you know, most of the black folks who have been, most if not all black folks that have been victimized under, you know, police oppression and racism just in general. And so it's incredibly sad being post 2020 and knowing the future because we're living it.
Mhm.
Because when Black Lives Matter was happening, it felt like something real was going on. You know, those protests were massive and
They were
rightfully
inspiring.
so. They were inspiring. And
I
it's
think for our generation, like if unless like you grew up experiencing racism, which I think actually I remember we have similar experiences of like experiencing very tangential racism directed at our people, but never at us
mhm.
directly. Um, uh, I think without that direct experience, I think for us of our generation, um, that was like a real political awakening, a real political moment.
It was,
Um,
especially for myself.
that I think led us both to where we are now.
I was a huge liberal back then. You know,
Yeah.
I was lived up to the max. You know, I couldn't have been more lived up at the time. I was one of the black square girlies that posted the black square on Blackout Tuesday or whatever it was, like I thought that was true resistance at the time.
Mm.
Um, and Black Lives Matter did really open my eyes to the realities of police brutality and in institutional and systemic racism and systemic violence, and just open violence. The video of George Floyd being murdered was so sickening and
I
so
don't think I actually, now that I think of it, I think I only saw it once, years
I
after it
yeah, me
happened.
too. And that's the thing is when I saw it, it's like this, you can't look away.
Hmm.
It's like when you see the children of Gaza being murdered and it's all over your Instagram feed, you can't look away. It's so visceral and so openly violent. Like
Hmm.
the Black Lives Matter to me is like is open resistance against, at least the way I saw it and the way I still do see it, as much as watered down as it has become. The
So
essence,
you say that, and I think it is true that, like, the Black Lives Matter as an organization has been co-opted. I I honestly, this is a leftist trademark or a Comrade Lenin approved slogan to me.
you
Like
think I agree. I agree so much. I feel
I think there's I'm going to say leftist trademark
me too.
because there isn't that element of that concrete political aim,
It doesn't have an
that
action
doesn't
item.
implicate the whole, that, like, there isn't that concrete specific political aim, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah. No, I don't think so either, and I generally still think this holds up.
Yeah.
Like as I do think there's heavy critique of the movement and of those who entered the movement specifically on like with the intention of basically defanging it to make it
Hmm.
something easy to digest and easy to kind of throw out when necessary and when able. Um, but I do still think that the core essence of Black Lives Matter lives on and remains as an important part of leftist resistance today against
Yeah.
like oppressive institutions. So yeah, I fuck with Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter
Um,
is good. It was a good
Next
one.
up, fascism has always been here for blank oppressed group.
Okay. This one goes deep.
It
Um,
does.
so uh the first thing we should the elephant we should in the room that we should address is that, similar to um land back, there's a bit of a discrepancy between the way it's used and its literal meaning.
Right.
Um, Fascism has always been here for ex-oppressed group. Um, that traces back to, I believe, it was something that Langston Hughes said of,
Mm,
uh, basically, Black people do not need to be taught what fascism is. They already know what fascism is in action. That's the key word, in action, in terms
right.
of racism, in terms of oppression. The thing is that fascism, the reorganization of the state, of the bourgeois state, um, into a single coherent, undemocratic, bureaucratic, and like efficiency-driven organization, or like efficient for capital.
Hmm.
That never existed in America, and that is what fascism is, right? It is
Hmm.
capitalism in crisis, which drives the bourgeoisie or a section of the bourgeoisie to seize power for itself and direct all of state power for the
Hmm.
maintenance and expansion of its profits.
Right.
Um, and if that is not faced with a revolutionary action, um, then you know
Hmm.
fascism wins.
Right.
Um, so At the
I,
same time, there's this other thing to consider, right? Of liberals who want to be like, oh, resist fascism by voting for like Biden, for voting for Kamala, whatever. And I think fascism has always been here for X, like a press group. It's often used to respond to those liberals and to say, like, no, like your state of the art liberal, like state of the art, your like um day-to-day liberalism is like terrible for us. We will not settle for liberalism.
right.
I think we communists have a slightly different perspective, which is that yes, liberalism is terrible. That's our whole thing. That's like what we're
Yeah.
about. Like liberalism is imperialism, is capitalism, etc.
It's kind of, yeah.
Um, that's our kind of our whole deal. So we agree on that account. But I
Right.
think our rejection of vote for Kamala, vote for Biden isn't just things are like already terrible. I'm going to stand on principle. It is the conversation should not be voting for liberals. The conversation should be revolution. The conversation should be organizing.
Mm.
And I think that exists to a certain extent in the other use of it. But um, I like it. I like it. I think I think it does help convey that like not as clearly
Fascist,
as it could.
well, I would say fascist tendencies have, or fascist like tools of
Yeah,
oppression
like
have always
fascism has
been
always
there.
existed as like a movement or like fascist well no, fascism didn't exist before.
Well,
But like racism and genocidal tendencies and all these things, yes, they did exist throughout all of capitalism's history.
and if you also look at the history of how fascism was founded and also the ideas that preluded fascism that allowed for it to become a coherent ideology are rooted.
They were drawn right from capitalism.
They
But
and they were also drawn right from like Manifest Destiny
right,
and
which Manifest Destiny, that's the key thing. Manifest Destiny is I believe I forget what period that was.
well,
But
it's
that is either like capitalist expansionism or imperialism at its root. Like Manifest Destiny is not its own thing.
yeah,
Like
and
Manifest Destiny is the same thing as Israel Chai. Like
yeah,
it's the same thing as like oh God, I can only think of of Lebensraum, right?
mm,
Um,
yeah. So where would you want to put this on the
but
tier list then?
let's see. I think well, actually, that I just realized that those two are bad examples because those were both fascism. But like the point is that I think fascism has always been here for X oppressed group. I think it's good when you add the phrase in action. I think that
Yes.
underlines that liberalism is not the solution. I think it opens up the conversation of revolutionary action. I don't think it quite points to it. Um, but I think the fact that it is technically inaccurate and therefore misleading, um, and also that it like it does not inherently imply any revolutionary action.
Hmm.
Sometimes it just implies like a nihilistic action.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I think
Perhaps
that moves it down to
Twitter.
Twitter leftist for
I
me.
agree. I agree. I was gonna say Twitter leftist feels like the most. It feels like sockdom silliness feels a little too
It's not
harsh,
sarcasm silliness, but
but
yeah,
it's
because
not
there's an
leftist
element of
trying
truth in
hard.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So our next one up, because I really love this analysis of what
Another
you
classic.
another classic, property is theft.
Marx already explained how this is bullshit. Property is theft. Uh, what Marx says is that property is theft um, covers up and hides how the normal, like honest relations of production are the ones that are exploitative, right? How
Mm-hmm.
the honest and equal sale of labor power for a wage is the source of production.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that it is not that theft is a bourgeois phrase to describe theft of private property, and that is not what is happening within capitalism.
Right.
Although that
So
has to happen for capitalism to get started, primitive accumulation. Yeah,
yeah,
liberal cosplaying.
we're just gonna, because it means nothing. It means
Mm-hmm.
nothing. It's for baby leftists who are still and it's very misleading because it makes you feel like, yes, like private property is technically, it's stealing from the masses, and it's saying that like you don't have rights to land and blah 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 blah. And it's like, but that's not all what it's talking about. And it's also so vague, and it means nothing. It just means nothing.
Sure.
And that's how I look at it. But last four, we're down to last four, and so the next up is listen to blank voices.
Hmm.
Hmm. I'm
This
in
is an interesting one.
because okay, I would say this is interesting because it feels like, yes, listen to like marginalized voices, for example.
Sure.
But like let's kind of generalize it. Let's say listen to trans voices. Are we
Mm-hmm.
listening to Blair White? Are we listening to ContraPoints?
Well, actually, here's another question. Are we listening to me?
Are we listening to Sophia? Which we
And
should
here's
be.
why I asked that. I am not an expert on trans issues. I am trans. Um, I couldn't tell you shit about trans issues. I could tell you about like what a pain in the ass it is to like get my estrogen each month. I I can tell you about like, my personal experiences, um, like being endangered by men. These are of on their own very little political significance. I am not an expert in trans issues at a political level. Um, I have a little bit more expertise. I have a little bit more knowledge of national liberation and of the struggle for the rights of nationalities,
Mm,
um, which I hope has been useful in
uh-huh.
here. But like, that's something I've studied.
Right.
Um, and I think to an expert in trans issues, to an expert in queer issues, my experiences would be useful for them. If they came to me and they were like, hey, tell me about your experiences, in a sense, I would be an expert to them. I would be teaching them something,
Right.
but I would not be doing that consciously. I would be doing it as a reflection of the society that we live in, right?
Right.
Um, and so when we're saying listen to X voices, I think we have to ask who's doing the listening and
Mm.
what is the class character of the voice in question.
And that's why I bring up, like, are we listening to Blair White and ContraPoints? Because these are two people who have gotten extremely rich from their online presence, who have become,
Hmm.
at least ContraPoints has become very complacent in where she is in the
Hmm.
movement, as definitely a Democrat, no doubt. And especially with her choice words on Gaza, we can definitely see where she stands.
Hmm.
Blair White is just an open conservative. Both of these
Yeah.
women are trans. Um, both of these
I
women,
think
sorry,
I
go
think
ahead.
I'm inclined to listen to expertise, and good expertise implies listening to a variety of voices and combining that with a good technical knowledge of the topic.
Exactly. And this slogan is essentially saying, if you are X marginalized group, then you must be an expert on that group's oppression.
Yes, yes. That's a huge problem with this slogan.
And it's something that I would have assumed at the age of like 15. But I know
Hmm.
now at the age of 21, almost 22, that this is not the case. That there are plenty
Hmm.
of people within marginalized groups who are not experts in their own oppression.
Hmm.
Black capitalists are one group. Listen to Black
Well,
voices.
it's not just groups, it's that individuals who may be of perfectly sound, like I guess positioning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that's why I'm
Just
putting
don't
it
have
at,
expertise. They have experience,
and that's and
and
it's
experience is useful,
it's feigning
but it's
saying,
not
well,
knowledge.
yeah, and it's saying that like it's giving the impression of a scientific perspective when in fact it is not. It's saying like, oh, well, if you listen to these voices, then you will come to the ultimate truth of that experience. That's not true. That's just not true. Again, when we're talking about listen to trans voices, are we listening to Blair White, or are we listening to an expert on trans identity through a historical perspective, or
Or are we just listening to a random trans person off the street?
Or are we just listening to someone on Reddit? Like,
yeah.
What's the context here? It's so vague.
Now, in the context of be respectful and like ask people questions when you're having conversations with them, like yeah. But like I don't think that needs a slogan. I think that's just like
that's just being a good person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our new campaign, being a good person.
Please be a good person. Question mark.
Please don't be rude.
So last three here. I put these are technically two different slogans, but I put them on one and the same because I feel like they convey kind of the same thing, which is all eyes on the genocide / all eyes on Gaza. Comrade Lenin approved. I'm gonna say it. I could set up
I understand. Would you hate me if I said Twitter leftist?
Ooh, okay.
Because hear me out.
You may be having I may be having a revelation right now. Okay, go ahead.
What is the political implication of this?
No, that's a good point.
Is that watching is the most we can do?
No, that's true. Because it's like it's giving you remember that AI photo of All Eyes on Rafa when and everyone and I fell victim to this as well, where I shared it not realizing that it was an AI photo of like it was pretty obvious. It wasn't hard to see that it was AI. But it was so performative, it kind of like was gross. Like the All Eyes on Rafa AI like slop basically of like, you know, watch what's going on in Gaza and the genocide while don't do anything. Like it doesn't like, you know, you can look, but there's nothing you can do about it. And it's like I feel like I hear that excuse all the time from people when we talk about the genocide and what's going on. Well, I can't do anything about it. I live all the way in the US. It's like actually no, you can.
It's the version of that which is just transformed into like it has the same energy as I can't do anything, but like yay, I can't do anything. Like it's awful.
Okay, I'm gonna say liberals cosplaying.
I think so.
I'm sorry.
Sockdem silliness because I think that there is like there's something to it. There's a reason you gravitated toward Comrade Lenin approved.
Because liberals wouldn't say liberals wouldn't even acknowledge the genocide because most liberals are Zionists.
Yeah.
Not every liberal is a Zionist, but no, actually that's not true. Zionists are usually quite conservative. Never mind. Ignore me. Last two. Homes, healthcare, debtlessness, peace.
Debtlessness is a mouthful.
It is.
Debtlessness is a mouthful. Now I say that
this is
this is the slogan on the top. Actually, I can grab it 1 second.
This may or may not be the slogan which APL uses.
This may or may not be the slogan that we use at the top of our newspapers. Now, in this context, where it's read, where it's part of a series, like a line where you're supposed to be reading, sure, I'll give it a pass. However, with much love to the editor, no one's chanting that.
No one's chanting that
absolutely
at all.
No one's chanting that.
Okay, can I put it in leftist trademarked? Or is
it? You can put it in leftist. You can put it in leftist trademarked.
Okay, because I like it. It's just who the fuck.
It's a good slogan.
It is.
It's bread, land, and peace, but like a little update, a little spiced up. Yeah.
Yeah. And so our last one, socialism is democracy applied to the economy.
Left's trademarked only because I don't see the practical application for it, but
Me
it
neither.
is perfectly fine as like an educational slogan. It
I
doesn't have the same
agree.
drawbacks as like fascism has always been here for X people, for example, you know?
Yeah, and it's also, I think it's a little incorrect. It is a
I
tiny
don't think
incorrect.
so.
Eh, okay, no, because I only see it like as like socialism is
Oh,
like,
like bourgeois democracy, like
yeah,
representative democracy. That would be
yeah,
insane. Like
yeah.
socialism is representative democracy.
What if we just did representative democracy again, guys? I promise it'll work this time.
Well, I think it's it's about the dictatorship of the proletariat. Like
Yeah,
actually representative democracy is a form that some socialist like states have taken. It's just that when you put like the police and the army directly in the hands of the proletariat, those representatives get a lot more wise to like
to like, you know,
do
not
the yeah,
not do the terrible shit that they might do otherwise. So like,
yeah.
there is that. So this has been just 21 slogans. It is definitely not an exhaustive list. If this episode ends up doing well, then I could definitely see us doing this again because it was super fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Any last minute changes? Any last minute
okay,
changes to any of these slogans?
I feel good about this.
Really?
I think that
I
this
also
is,
do, but like yeah.
I would say maybe move fuck the police down.
Really?
No, no, actually
Oh
no.
yeah, because it doesn't have the specific. Yeah, I think yeah, let's move fuck the police down.
There we go. Okay. I
Yeah.
feel like this is
I think
pretty.
I think I will say I think with land back, we didn't really get into the more negative side of that slogan.
Yeah.
But I don't want to move it because I think that positive side is really standout.
It's very strong, and it's also when you look at the context of like the Native American genocide and everything that ensued from that, um, land back ultimately is a resistance effort against like I would say imperialism.
Yeah,
But
yeah, no, absolutely.
I can understand if we moved it down to Twitter leftists in the context of like its negatives, but I think that its positives outweigh that.
I think what I'll say, I think there is a Twitter leftist version of it, which I don't think it's fair to judge these slogans by their worst iteration if there are
Hmm.
multiple iterations. I think it's best to judge it by its present, its most salient, its most important, like the one that has left the biggest impression.
I agree because that's the material like this is what has actually occurred versus what we we assume it to be or what we
Mhm.
analyze it to be.
Actually, and for that reason, I think we should move Land, Bread, and Peace um up to leftist trademarked because I think there is a little bit of LARPiness to it, but like
Yeah.
it's close to Lenin approved.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. And I think that if we do another one of these, I would love to kind of expand it a little bit and look at like No Partisan, Bella Ciao.
No pasaran, yeah.
Yeah, like
Bella
Partisan.
Ciao, liberals cosplaying, liberals cosplaying.
No, because why was it playing at a club I was in Spain?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Okay, yes, this
All
was
right.
so fun. I think we had a really great conversation here, a lot of historical materialism, a lot of class analysis, and understanding of slogans, sloganeering. It's not the end all be all, but it is important. This was Comrade Sofia on the Liberation Hour.
Wait, do we want a final
Yes, serenade
what
us.
do sure. Let's do a Lebanese communist one.
Yes,
This one's really fun.
yes, let's do it.
It's very simple. Maybe I don't know. Let's see.
إني قلبي راح بلوي داخل عينيك شيوي أنا وياك شيوي أنا وياك بدنا ثورة رجعية بدنا يا سريعة أنا وياك يا شيوي أنا وياك بدنا نسقط اليمين ونحضن معاك يا لينين وأنا وياك يا شيوخي أنا وياك بدنا نحرق الوزارة نحفادك يا كبار وأنا وياك يا شيوخي أنا وياك بدنا نسقط اللوم داخل عينك ما في أمل أنا وياك يا شيوخي أنا وياك إذا الوطن يلوم تسقط سلطة الرئيس تسقط سلطة رأس المال أنا وياك يا شيوخي أنا وياك
I have no
Beautiful.
idea if that was audible.
No, I think it was. Everyone. Comrade Sophia, what a beautiful. Thank you for serenading us. Thank you so much. That was lovely.